Hello and welcome to the plant. I've just imported my work orders from ERP and I'm now ready to do some work, but first let's take a look at the schedule that I've made yesterday. So here we are. I have my production process with the blending, the roasting, the grinding and the packaging. And what you can see here on the Gantt chart is the work that we plan to be doing over time. So I have here horizontally, I have time, I have my production processes, and whenever you see a block being drawn, that is something I plan and to execute a task on the resource. So for example, here work order 15, and I intend to start at just past midnight, 37 minutes past midnight, and it will end around 4 hours and 10 minutes into the day with a process duration of 3 hours and 35 minutes. So this way I'm building up my plan. So of course there are some dependencies between my various production steps, and these are also captured within the application. So whenever I select, for example, this work order, I can see that there are some activities planned on the grinding resources that are dependent on that, as well as on the packaging side. Besides that, we also have these campaigns that the application is automatically taking into account. So I'm packing my coffee in big sacks, or I'm bringing them together in sealed caps. And whenever I need to do this in order for my packaging to be efficient, and the application automatically keeps track of which work orders have this type. So there's also colors of nodes that give us a bit of information. For example, I have here the blue nodes, which indicate that this is my frozen period. This is the amount of the work that I've planned that has already been communicated to the shop floor. They will not really appreciate it if I change anything of that. So that will stay the same. And pretty much everything besides the frozen period is something that I can play around with and try and improve my schedule. Those are the green blocks that are the sort of normal tasks that I can still play around with. But then if we look down, we see some yellow. This is indicating the setup time. If we hover over it, indeed we see that there's a process duration specified as well as the setup duration. And last but not least, we also have, for example, the orange color, which indicates that we are waiting on previous activities to be done before we can start this. So really the dependency is coming back here as well. So what it boils down to is that all the rules are in the system. We know the durations, the setup durations, the process duration, the dependencies. And this is very relevant because we want our schedule that we're making right here in the application to be conform to what is happening in reality. So when we schedule a grinding operation and we take 45 minutes of setup duration, that this is actually the time that they need on the shop floor to clean the blades and make sure that we're ready for the next grinding task. And we want it to be them to take 45 minutes in the sense that if they take half an hour, we would like it reflected here. And if they would take an hour, we would also want it reflected here. So that what we see, our schedule, is actually what we're going to execute in reality. So what often happens is that my friend Henry from the shop floor comes by and has a talk with me because he's interested in what's happening in the schedule in the future. He's one of the lead machinists of the grinding lines, and he likes to know exactly what's going on so that he can do a strategic taste test at the right moment when his favorite coffee comes by. So we often go to the resource sequence detail list and we look at the grinding list, and we see that indeed work order 52 is his favorite, so he now knows that at 10 o'clock, between 10 and 12, he needs to execute his strategic taste test, and then he will be very happy. So Henry is happily looking forward to that, but he also has a bit of a concern. He tells me there were quite a bit of work in progress stacks I saw when I walked up here. Are you keeping an eye on that? Most definitely. Let's go have a look. We can review our inventory right here, and then we get a sense of whether our stacks of work in progress are getting too full. For example, I can see here, if we open up the schedule a little bit more, my inventory chart for the blending stock, which we see right here, and we can see it's staying below 20. This is pretty much acceptable. So thanks Henry for making us aware, but it's not a problem at all. And for example, we see that this will neatly translate into our finished products that are ready to be shipped eventually. So now that we have an overview of the plan that we made yesterday, our materials, our stock is looking all right, let's have a look to see if we can improve our plan and get some of these operations that still need to be planned into the schedule. So what I can do is I can drag and drop within the schedule to see if we can improve things. But of course, before we start improving, we need a measurement of how we're doing right now. So let's have a look at the KPIs. We see that we have some planned orders, 99% indeed. We have some unplanned orders we earlier imported from the ERP system. Our productivity is all right, but our delivery performance could use some work. So let's see if we can maybe improve that a little bit. I see in my schedule I have here some white spots, there's some space here. Perhaps if we use that, then our schedule becomes more efficient. So what I'm going to do is drag and drop this task over here, and in that way I'll change the schedule. The system will automatically update, and indeed we've used a bit more of our white space. Let's see if we can improve it even a little bit more by drag and dropping this task over here, and indeed we're now using a bit more of the white space. So we have a more efficient schedule. Our delivery performance has gone up, but not that significantly that we're really happy with it. And we still have some unscheduled work that needs to be planned. And what I can do as manual planning is quite fun, but it's not my cup of coffee. So let's use the optimizer instead to help us plan this amount of work. So what I'm going to do is going to select optimize and schedule, and I will let the optimizer do its thing. So what is going to happen is we can follow along. The optimizer knows all about these different information within the system, like the setup durations, the dependencies, so he understands the puzzle. And what he's going to do is try and, within the constraints of what makes a plan feasible, try and figure out what would be the best sequence in order for us to optimize on our KPIs. And that we can see right here. It has planned in the orders by itself, and it is now trying to minimize this total KPI. We see we had a very high penalty because there were some work unplanned. This incentivizes the optimizers to get everything in, and now we're trying to make as best of a plan as possible, optimizing against these KPIs that we have right here. Indeed, we see planned orders 100% right now, but perhaps we could do better. And as usual, we do have Moore's law indicating that our computation power is increasing exponentially year over year, but still it is finite. An optimizer can only calculate through sequences as much as we give it time and computation power. So let's go ahead and stop the optimizer. So let's have a look at our optimized schedule, where I've given the optimizer a little bit more time. Let's maximize our schedule right here so we can see clearly the difference. And the biggest difference will be on the packaging operations. If we go to the optimized schedule, we'll see the difference show up shortly. And indeed, the optimizer was able to squeeze all the operations a little bit more together. And what does this have for impact on our KPIs? We now have an acceptable delivery performance, which has gone up tremendously. Yet, if we are critical on this, I would say we would like an even better delivery performance. But as I've given the optimizer it's enough time, I think we've squeezed pretty much everything that we have possible within this schedule. So it results for me in a list of orders that are going to be late, which is of course a tremendous valuable information to be able to share with, for example, my customer service. So that's exactly an action that I'm going to make. So I'm going to share my late order list with customer service department, so they can go ahead and let our customers know that they're going to be late, exactly how late they're going to be as depicted by the schedule. So a good indication, of course not the best news, but at least it's transparent and open. And I'm going to schedule a meeting with my master production scheduler to align on planned capacity, because we are now pretty much fully utilizing our resources and we're not getting a 100% delivery performance. Perhaps that's acceptable, but let's at least align and discuss whether there's maybe a misalignment here. So now that we have got this information, let's go back to our action log. I am going to find here my actions waiting. I will share my late order list as soon as possible, and I will be doing that. So I'll assign it to myself, and I will tomorrow schedule, I'll have a meeting with my master production scheduler and go ahead and do that. So what we've seen is we went and imported our orders from ERP. Then we looked at the schedule from yesterday. We made Henry happy with his most optimal timing to do a strategic taste test. Then we looked at the material stock level overview before running the optimizer to try and improve our plan, where we got a real-time update of what it was doing. And finally, we had a beautiful optimized plan. We had a list of late orders that we could go and communicate with our customer service department, as well as we're going to realign with our master production scheduler to see if the planned capacity is still aligning on that level. Thank you very much.